I've heard him talk about it when there aren't any cameras around. Donald Trump is going to fix the Veterans Affairs Administration and make it work for every veteran in this country. We're talking about what you count in the uniform of the United States. But take a look at that 10-point plan. If you have any trouble getting a hold of it, grab one of our guys here before the end of the meeting, and I'll send it to you personally. But I guarantee you, day one of the Trump administration, we're going to work on turning the VA. It has been appalling. It has been appalling to see veterans having to wait a week to even see a doctor and months for medical treatment. It's just utterly unacceptable. I mean, we are veterans of debt we can never fully repay. But we're going to do it. We're going to do a better job at the VA, and I will carry back the point you made straight to Donald Trump today. Thank you very much. God bless you. Yes. Hi, what's your name?
Fran King.
What is it?
Fran King.
Oh, Fran. Hi.
Fran. I'm from Green Valley, Arizona, and on behalf of my friend Jenny Jensen, who is not able to be here today, I would like to ask a question for her. She wants to know if when Donald Trump and you are going to be addressing rallies, immigration, the economy, and jobs.
Mm-hmm. Immigration, the economy, and jobs. Well, let me tell you, Donald Trump is dedicated to secure borders, and he's going to build a wall that will ensure that we are a nation. I promise you that. There's a passion there. You know, Ronald Reagan, who's in just a couple of months, he'll be my second favorite president. Thanks for getting that joke. I became a Republican because of Ronald Reagan. I was actually involved in the Democratic Party when I was growing up. I was a youth Democratic Party coordinator in my hometown. It was kind of a community organizer role. Ronald Reagan said, remember, a nation without borders is not a nation. And I promise you, Donald Trump is going to ensure that we are a nation of borders and that we uphold our laws. And also, make no mistake about it, and I think he's got a speech coming up in Detroit in a couple of days. You'll see an economic plan that, unlike Hillary Clinton's plan, which is a plan of kind of more stimulus spending, right? And more green jobs with their cap and trade regime. But you're going to hear us talk about cutting taxes, cutting red tape, ensuring that businesses in America can compete from a tax standpoint with businesses all over the world, and we are going to fight to keep American jobs in America. So get over here. Want to slide on that one? Grab something? Great. How about this gentleman right on the road? Thank you. What's your name?
Vince Gonzalez, sir.
Hey, Vince.
How you doing?
Great.
I want to preempt my question with welcome you to Tucson, sir, this wonderful area. Thank you for coming to our
Thank you.
One of the things that has to be done is we have to clear house on all those ridiculous czars that he put in point. That's not our system, and I hope you guys can do that. But my question to you is this. We need a dynamic duo in Washington, President, and I thank God that he made the choice of you. I've read a lot about you.
Thank you.
Stand for a lot of you guys stand for.
Thank you.
So my question to you is this. How best in that dynamic duo situation, how do you see yourself fulfilling and being the most incredible vice president that you can to an incredible president like Mr. Trump? How are you going to do that? Thank you, sir.
Well, I got stuck on the dynamic duo image there. Kind of a Batman fan. I was just getting lost in that for a second. It's a really wonderful question, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get up every day and work my heart out to take the vision of President Donald Trump and translate it into laws and policies and changes on Capitol Hill. That's what I'm going to do. But I honestly think maybe, because Donald and I have talked about this before he made the call and offered me this opportunity, is that, he's a man who's built a global business and, an extraordinary success. I mean, he, like me, his grandfather immigrated to this country. His father was a self-made man. He went on to build an incredible business enterprise. My path has been different. I worked, had my own little business. I worked in radio and television for a while, but I spent 12 years in Washington, D.C., and I've been a governor for 4 years. And I got to tell you, sometimes I say if I only had 12 years left to live, I'd want to live it as a member of Congress, because that was the longest 12 years of my life. Seriously, now, as we've talked, I've had the great privilege, all kidding aside, to know people serving in Washington, D.C. And believe it or not, there's a lot of extraordinarily talented and dedicated men and women who serve in the nation's capital. I'll even say that in both political parties. And I've gotten to know them over the years, and I know the people who work for them. I also know governors all over the United States. And my hope, and I think maybe it's one of the reasons why Donald Trump called, was the ability to take that extraordinary vision to make America great again, those policies that he's been laying out, and be able to convey those to the people on Capitol Hill, and to build on those relationships. I always love to tell people, Washington, D.C. is actually just kind of it's a great big small town. I grew up in a small town, so I like small towns. But Washington, D.C., when you add it all up, it's like there's 535 people on Capitol Hill, there's 9 people across the street at the Supreme Court, and there's 1 person down at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue. Small town. And I've just had the incredible privilege of getting to know a lot of those people over the years. And so I would hope that maybe my experience is going to be a part of helping to interpret that, because I really do believe that Donald Trump's leadership, his vision, his drive can transform our nation's capital, rebuild our military, and unleash the unbridled power of the American economy. So we're going to drive those policies forward. But this way, let's slide right up that road. Let's pick a young lady up that road. We'll go boy, girl today. There we go. Yeah. Share with me your first name.
My name is Kelly.
Kelly?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi. I have a daughter who has mental health issues.
God bless
The
her.
state of Arizona has left us down. I cannot get meds for my daughter. Thank you. They have completely left us in a lurch as far as residential treatment for these kids. And I just want you to know that this is a huge problem. My daughter's birth mother was an addict. My child was born addicted, and she has issues because of it. I just want to know that Donald is, and you are on board with us.
Well, Kelly, let me first, thanks for being a great mom. Thanks for being a great champion.
I have 9 children. This child is my youngest of 9.
Yeah. Wonderful. What a wonderful family. Well, let me say, we've talked about just this issue. One of the issues that is touching people all over the country bears upon this question. You said that your family's been touched by mental health issues, but also by drug abuse and addiction.
Without a doubt.
And there's often a very close relationship between the two. And what I can tell you in the state of Indiana, and Donald and I have talked about this, is when it comes to drug abuse and addiction and that nexus with mental health, we've done a couple things in Indiana that all we'll be advocating for in our nation's capital. And that is, number one, we recently raised the mandatory minimum penalties on people that sell drugs to our kids. I want Indiana to be a worse place in America. The But in the same breath, we've worked hard in Indiana through Medicaid reform and other efforts to expand access to mental health treatment in our state, to help people have a pathway to deal with mental health issues, but also where they're caught up in a cycle of drug abuse and addiction to have more access. We want to be a nation that comes alongside people and provides access to that care. And one of the things that can happen when we repeal Obamacare, Kelly, one of the things that can happen when we repeal Obamacare is that we can block grant Medicaid back to the states and allow states to do a lot of what Indiana's already done with what's called the Healthy Indiana Plan. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to break ground on the first new mental health hospital in a generation in the state of Indiana. But by getting rid of this one-size-fits-all national healthcare policy, we can allow states to innovate, invest in the kind of resources and the kind of treatments that are most needful here in Tucson, in Phoenix, in Indianapolis, in Bedford, Indiana, and everywhere in between. So God bless your daughter, and thank you so very much for that. Let's just slide right up the road, and how about this young man right here with his hand up? Right here. What's your name, son?
Mark.
Hi, Mark.
So first of all, I wanted to thank you and Mr. Trump for stepping up to the challenge to take America off of the path that it's heading toward.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
So what I wanted to know is, my grandmother and most of her family are Jewish, and they have a lot of friends in Israel, which is our only ally in the Middle East. But it seems like the current administration is showing a lot of disrespect for Israel, with Obama refusing to go and see Netanyahu's speech when he addressed us, and making deals with countries that want to destroy them. My question for you is, how will you and Mr. Trump make amends with our only ally in the Middle East?
Mark, I'm very impressed with you. I don't know how young you are, but during my years in Congress, Mark, I served on the Foreign Affairs Committee for a decade. I also chaired, I was the senior Republican on the Middle East Subcommittee. I have a term for Israel. She is not our ally in the Middle East. She is our most cherished ally in the world. In these times where we see Libya imploding, Syria imploding, Iraq coming apart because of the policies of this administration, I promise you, when Donald Trump becomes president, Mark, there will be two things the world knows. Number one is they will again know American strength. And number two, if the world knows nothing else, it will know this: America stands with Israel. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for calling me in.
You couldn't return the favor, right?
All right.
What's your first name?
Donna Marie.
Don Marie?
And besides being a retired veteran, I'm also a retired teacher.
Good. Great. Thank you so
This is my question for you regarding education.
Yeah.
We have teachers that live below poverty level. They teach the future of our nation. And we have people sitting up in Washington who decide what's good for each state, what tests the kids are going to take, without any consideration of what actually goes on in the classrooms. What's your plan?
Well, Donna Marie, thank you for wearing the uniform, and thanks for your time in the classroom. Look, I'll tell you what, this new administration, if the American people award us with this opportunity, is going to hold to some basic ideas. One of them is that government that governs least governs best, and that education is a state and local function that ought to be driven by parents and teachers and officials at the local level. I was in Washington, D.C. about 6 months. I was a brand new member of Congress. Right? I was a Republican, had a Republican president. The first bill that he sent to Capitol Hill was called No Child Left Behind. And to be honest with you, I was one of only about 50 members of my own party to vote against No Child Left Behind because I believe education is a state and local function. Now, the thing about schools is, Washington can give resources, not red tape. Because we all know that we want that accountability in the classroom. My wife Karen is backstage here somewhere. She came out with me. She's taught for 25 years in the classroom. Elementary school teacher in Washington. I always believe, and I know Donald Trump believes, there's nothing that ails education in this country if we give parents more choices and teachers more freedom to teach. Okay? I mean, honestly and truthfully, making it possible for teachers to keep more of what they earn, to make a better living, and giving parents the ability to choose where their children go to school is going to be at the center of the agenda of the Trump administration for education. All right. Let's slide up the row there. Why don't you find, how about the gentleman in the red hat? Especially if that's a Make America Great Again hat.
Hi, my name is Joseph. And
Hi, Joseph.
my grandfather owns a small business here in Tucson, and on behalf of him, I'd like to ask, what's the Trump-Pence plan for small business growth?
Well, Joseph, thanks a lot. Great question. The majority of jobs in our last major economic expansion and this one have been created in small business America. I grew up in a small business family. My dad ran a small gas station business in a small town. Made a great success of it. I actually worked from the time I was old enough to be able to as a gas station attendant, which some of the older people around you can explain to you what that was. Shirt said Mike, right? He said run out to the car, fill the gas, wash the windshield, check the oil, check the tire, didn't charge anyone for it. So anyway, I love small business. I grew up in a small business family just like you have. The thing about small business is, and Donald Trump is going to describe this in his economic plan that will come out next week, I think at the Detroit Economic Club. But get ready. There's something when people, it's not just about, it's not just about lowering taxes, it's about recognizing that the majority of small businesses in this country file their taxes as individuals. So what you're going to see Donald Trump do as president, we're going to go to Capitol Hill and fight to lower taxes on job creators by lowering the marginal rates, lowering the corporate tax rates, cutting red tape, and repealing Obamacare, which has done more damage to small business than more And it's still summer around here, so after this, go back to work with Grandpa. Okay. Good to see you, man. Thank you very much. Okay, you're up on the row on the right there. What's this young lady? What's your name?
My name is Felicia.
Elisa?
Felicia.
Felicia, thank you.
Thank you so much. So, I just wanted to address crime rates with, Chicago with no gun, really strict gun laws, and like here in Arizona, we have really liberal gun laws, and So what about our Second Amendment rights, and what is your, your take on that?
Right. Well, what I can tell you is that the choice on this, I don't think, could be any more clear. I mean, Hillary Clinton is a candidate for president who essentially is promising to rewrite the Second Amendment. But Donald Trump and I know firearms in the hands of law-abiding citizens makes our communities more safe. But it is heartbreaking to see the violence that's beset. I mean, my parents both grew up on the south side of Chicago. My grandparents were all buried there. That's a great city, and to see the tragedy there. But to your point, with some of the strictest gun laws in the country. Washington, D.C., in the years that I lived and worked there, has some of the strictest gun laws in America, and it too often has been the murder capital of the country. The simple truth is that in Donald Trump, you're going to have a president who stands by our liberties, but also is going to stand up for restoring law and order in communities across this country for the protection of all of our people in every community, in every neighborhood. Okay. A couple more, and then we'll have to slip out and head back north. How about... You want to slide up there? We've got, I like the lady waving her arm. That was new. Let's do that. We'll break turn. Yes, go ahead. Okay. Yes. Plus, my mom has red hair, so.
Well, thank you so much for coming to Tucson.
You
It's
bet.
nice to know that the politicians haven't forgotten us. My question is, as a Christian, I found that the decline of our country has come about from banning prayer in schools. And thus it's created a problem across our country with them taking the Ten Commandments off our walls, taking anything in our courthouses that reflects God. What I'd like to know is there any chance for us to restore prayer in schools?
Linda? Thank you, Linda. Thank you for your testimony, and thank you for cherishing our freedom. Thank you for cherishing our freedom. What I can tell you is, I want to tell you a story about the freedom of religion involving Donald Trump. It's something I'm very excited about. But let me just say, I promise you, because we've talked about it, you've seen the list of people at Hill Point. These are decisions that will be made by the Supreme Court of the United States, right? Donald Trump is going to appoint justices to the Supreme Court in the tradition of the late and great Justice Antonin Scalia. I got to tell you a story, though. I got to tell you a story, and I'm running up against it here, but this is very exciting to me, because when we talk about freedom of religion, there's a great story. When you think about, I got an American history degree when I was in college. I focused on the American founding, okay? Which, getting an American history degree at a small college in southern Indiana, I was able to get a job at the college. But I have a passion for history. My kids will tell you on the bedstand by my, in our bedroom, there's just a stack of history books I'm reading all the time. But I'm so fascinated with the American founding. And when you study the American founding, when you look through American history, the role of people of faith from before this nation was founded has been critical to every major change that's happened. Think about it. I mean, most of the great speeches for American independence, maybe not most, but many of the speeches that passed around those colonies in pamphlets were actually sermons. Okay? And when you think about the abolition of slavery, it was the moral voices of Harriet Beecher Stowe's father and others who who convicted a nation to end slavery once and for all under President Lincoln. And I stood in the pews at Dr. Martin Luther King's church in Montgomery, Alabama, and heard people from that time in that movement tell me that they meant to pray, they meant to sing, and it was the moral voice of faith that drove us toward a more perfect union in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And yet, now this is where Donald Trump comes in. Because it turns out, back in 1954, a senator named Lyndon Johnson added a provision to our Internal Revenue Code that essentially prohibits tax-exempt organizations from endorsing or opposing a candidate, specifically churches. Right? Now here's the story. I love this story. And Donald's told me more than once. Tell people about that. He's in a meeting with a bunch of pastors about 6 months ago. And they were all expressing their strong support for him. They sense his heart. They sense his passion, his stand for the right to life, his stand for the values that we care about, and the Constitution. And then he said to them, well, why don't you go back and tell people at your church? And they said, well, we can't. And he said, why? And they said, the Johnson Amendment. The churches... And go back, and if you're in a church, synagogue, or any faith community, go ask the leaders. They'll tell you, their lawyers will tell them. We're going to put our tax-exempt status at risk if we speak out boldly. Okay? Now, I like to put it this way. Politicians always ask what. Leaders ask why. And Donald Trump asked why. Why does it have to be that way in a nation where the freedom of religion is enshrined as our first freedom in our First Amendment? And so we went to work. And a couple weeks ago, for the first time in the history of the Republican Party, a provision was added to the platform of the party to repeal the Johnson Amendment. For the freedom of men and women of faith to speak their minds in every community of faith in this country. Very exciting. It's very exciting. So it's all about freedom. Well, I think I better slip out and go. I'm going to say hi to as many of you as have a chance to say hello down on the railing before we head. But let me just encourage you one more time to leave here today. Leave here today encouraged to go out and do the work. Arizona will loom large in the decision that America will make. The choice could not be clearer. So if you'll leave here today with a burden on your heart to talk to your neighbors and friends, to roll your sleeves up and not rest and not relent until we elect Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States of America, you will have done your part to make America great again. Thank you very much. And God bless you.